The vast emptiness of space stretched around the research vessel Odyssey as it cruised along the outer edges of Saturn's rings. Dr. Miho Lee stood at the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of ice and rock. The mission was simple: collect samples from Saturn's rings for analysis back on Earth. "Dr. Lee, you should see this," called Ji-hoon, the ship's pilot. His voice was tense, unusual for the typically calm man. Miho walked to the bridge where Ji-hoon pointed at the radar display. A massive object rested within the rings, too symmetrical to be natural. "That's not an asteroid," Miho said, leaning closer to the screen. Captain Doyen Kim entered, her face serious. "The object is approximately 3 kilometers long. It's not registering on any known database." The crew gathered around the display, faces lit by the blue glow of the screens. Sun-hee Park, the team's engineer, zoomed in on the object using the ship's external cameras. "It's a ship," she whispered. The structure was sleek despite its massive size, with what looked like propulsion systems at one end. Miho felt his heart race. Humanity had encountered only 3 alien species in its century of space exploration, and none had technology like this. "How long has it been there?" asked Doyen. Sun-hee typed rapidly at her console. "Based on the dust accumulation and integration with the ring material, at least several million years." The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. "We need to report this to Earth Command," Doyen finally said, breaking the silence. Within 24 hours, a specialized exploration team arrived from Earth. Dr. Yoon Ji-yoon, a leading xenoarchaeologist, led the new team as they prepared to board the ancient vessel. "The ship appears to be in a dormant state," Yoon-ji explained during the mission briefing. "No power signatures, no signals, nothing to indicate active systems." Miho joined the exploration team, along with Sun-hee and 6 others from the new arrival. They approached the massive ship in a small shuttle, the alien vessel growing larger in their viewport until it filled their entire field of vision. "Look at the hull," Sun-hee pointed. "No meteor impacts, no degradation. This material must be incredibly resilient." After a careful approach, they found what appeared to be an airlock. Sun-hee attached a portable power unit to what she guessed was an external interface panel. "Nothing," she said after several attempts. "Whatever technology they used, it's completely different from ours." Yoon-ji studied the door. "Let's try a physical approach." They used laser cutters to create an opening large enough to enter. Inside, emergency lights from their suits illuminated a cavernous corridor. The architecture was strange, curving walls with no sharp angles, and surfaces covered in intricate patterns that might have been decorative or functional. "Air composition is similar to Earth standard," reported June, the team's atmospheric specialist. "Slightly higher oxygen content, but breathable." Yoon-ji nodded. "Keep helmets on for now. We don't know what microbes might be present." They ventured deeper into the ship, documenting everything with their cameras. The corridors occasionally opened into larger rooms filled with what appeared to be control stations or living quarters, though nothing resembled human technology. After hours of exploration, they found a central chamber dominated by a large circular platform. "This might be the bridge," Yoon-ji suggested, examining the strange symbols etched into the walls. Sun-hee approached what looked like a control panel. "These indentations, they might be interfaces for the crew." For 3 days, the team explored the ship, bringing in additional experts from Earth. Linguists worked to decipher the symbols. Engineers tried to understand the technology. Everyone was frustrated by their lack of progress. On the 4th day, Miho sat alone in the central chamber, staring at the silent controls. 6 billion kilometers from Earth, and we find this miracle of engineering, but we can't even turn on the lights, he muttered to himself in Korean, his native language. Suddenly, a soft blue glow emanated from the panel in front of him. The room hummed with energy as lights flickered on throughout the chamber. "Hello?" Miho called out, startled. The blue light pulsed in rhythm with his voice. Symbols on the walls began to glow. "Is someone there?" he asked, his heart pounding. A holographic display appeared above the central platform, showing what appeared to be star charts. Then a voice spoke, not in Korean or any human language, but somehow Miho understood it. Genetic signature recognized. Human variant detected. Initiating primary protocols. Miho backed away, fumbling for his communicator. Everyone needs to get to the central chamber now. When the team arrived minutes later, they found Miho standing frozen before a fully activated bridge, with holographic displays showing information about the ship, the solar system, and what appeared to be a language translation matrix. "What did you do?" Yunji asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I just talked to it," Miho replied. And it answered. The blue light pulsed gently through the ancient starship's central chamber as the exploration team stared in amazement. The holographic displays hovering above the circular platform showed complex star maps and scrolling symbols. "Everyone stay calm," Dr. Yunji-Yun ordered, though her own voice trembled with excitement. "Miho, tell us exactly what happened." Before Dr. Miho Lee could answer, the ship's voice spoke again, this time in perfect Korean. Language analysis complete. Adapting communication protocols. The team exchanged shocked glances. Sunhee Park fumbled with her recording equipment, ensuring every moment was documented. "I just spoke in Korean," Miho explained, and suddenly everything activated. A new hologram appeared, a humanoid figure composed of blue light. Its features were neither male nor female, with elongated limbs and a head slightly larger than human proportions. "Welcome, descendants," the figure said, now speaking in clear English. "I am Keeper, the custodial intelligence of this vessel. The Starseeker has awaited awakening for 7 million years." Yunji stepped forward cautiously. "We are humans from planet Earth. Did you call us descendants?" The holographic figure tilted its head in a gesture almost like curiosity. "Your genetic pattern carries markers of the Cedars. This ship was programmed to respond only to their biological lineage." "The Cedars?" asked June, the atmospheric specialist. "Those you might call the architects or the ancients," Keeper explained. "They visited your world when it was young, when your species was still evolving. They left genetic markers to ensure their legacy would be found." Captain Doyen Kim, who had rushed to the ship after receiving Miho's urgent message, addressed the AI directly. "Are you saying humans are descendants of your creators?" "Not directly," Keeper replied. "The Cedars altered your evolutionary path. They added genetic sequences that would eventually allow recognition by their technology. You are still human, but you carry their signature within you." News of the ship's activation spread quickly. Within hours, the Odyssey's small crew was joined by 3 more research vessels. Scientists from every field hurried to study the ancient starship. In the central chamber, Miho worked with linguists to establish clearer communication with Keeper. The AI seemed patient with their questions, though sometimes confused by human concepts. "Why did the Cedars choose humans?" Miho asked during one session. "There were other species on Earth." Keeper's hologram shifted, displaying what appeared to be ancient Earth. "Your ancestors showed unique potential. The Cedars visited many worlds, seeding many species, but humans possessed a combination of adaptability and creativity they valued." Yunji, who hadn't left the ship since its activation, joined the conversation. "And what happened to the Cedars? Where are they now?" The hologram dimmed slightly. "The Cedars faced extinction 6.8 million years ago. This vessel contains their legacy, their knowledge, their history, and samples of their biological material." "They're extinct?" Miho couldn't hide his disappointment. "Their civilization ended," Keeper corrected. "But their essence remains, preserved within this vessel's genetic repository." As days passed, the scientists made remarkable discoveries. The ship contained technological knowledge centuries beyond human development, propulsion systems that bent space, energy sources that drew power from quantum fluctuations, medical technology that could cure almost any disease. But access was limited. Keeper would only share certain information, explaining that full access required verification of worthiness. On the 5th day, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived. The Tellurians, a squid-like species with advanced technology, were particularly interested in the ship. Their ambassador, Zoral, requested permission to board. The Tellurians have been spacefaring for millennia longer than humans, Captain Kim explained to Keeper. They might help us understand your technology better. When Ambassador Zorl entered the central chamber with 3 Tellurian scientists, Keeper's hologram appeared but remained silent. The Tellurians tried various methods of communication, even connecting their advanced translation devices, but Keeper did not respond. It is as if the system does not even detect our presence, Zorl said, frustration evident in the translator's rendering of his clicks and whistles. Miho spoke directly to Keeper. Why won't you respond to them? Keeper's hologram brightened. Only those with the genetic signature may access Starseeker's systems. This is the primary security protocol established by the Seeders. The implications of this statement spread through the gathered scientists like wildfire. If the ship would only respond to humans, Earth suddenly possessed the most valuable artifact in known space. Ambassador Zorl turned to Captain Kim. This development will change humanity's position in galactic politics. The Council will need to re-evaluate Earth's status immediately. As night fell and most researchers returned to their ships for rest, Miho stayed behind in the central chamber. He sat cross-legged before Keeper's dormant interface. "Yes," he whispered, not expecting an answer. "We're so young compared to other species." Keeper's hologram appeared, dimmer than usual, almost intimate. The youngest children often inherit what the eldest could not appreciate. The Seeders believed humanity would need these gifts when the time came. What time? Miho asked. The returning, Keeper said enigmatically. But first, the trials must begin. You have awakened the ship, now you must prove you are ready for what it contains. Word spread quickly across the galaxy about the ancient starship that responded only to humans. Within days, 14 vessels from 7 different species gathered in Saturn's orbit. The Tellurians had called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council, while the normally reclusive Meridians sent their most senior ambassador. Inside the Starseeker, Captain Doyen Kim met with her team to discuss the growing diplomatic crisis. The Tellurians are demanding access to the ship's technology, she explained. They claim that as the oldest member of the Galactic Council, they should oversee any distribution of advanced knowledge. Dr. Yoonji Yoon shook her head. The ship won't even acknowledge their existence. How do they expect to gain access? Before anyone could answer, Keeper's hologram appeared, casting blue light across their faces. The gathering of species is expected, Keeper said. This pattern has repeated on 17 previous seeded worlds. The trial period must now begin. Miho looked up from his notes. You mentioned trials before. What exactly do you mean? The Seeders established 5 trials to assess the worthiness of potential inheritors, Keeper explained. Knowledge without wisdom leads to destruction. The Seeders learned this at great cost. The hologram expanded, showing images of devastated planets and dying stars. The Seeders' civilization ended because technological advancement outpaced ethical development, Keeper continued. They created this vessel not just to preserve their knowledge, but to ensure it would only be shared with those who would not repeat their mistakes. Sun He leaned forward. And we need to pass these trials to access the ship's full knowledge? Correct. The first trial begins now. The central chamber suddenly transformed around them. The metal walls and floor vanished, replaced by a holographic simulation of a planet with 2 small moons. The humans found themselves standing on a ridge overlooking a valley filled with strange crystal formations that pulsed with inner light. This simulation represents an actual historical event from Seeder history, Keeper's voice explained from all around them. You will face the same choices they faced. A holographic city appeared in the valley, inhabited by humanoid figures going about their daily lives. At the same time, data appeared before each human showing that the crystal formations contained an energy source that could power their civilization for centuries. The crystals sustain a unique form of consciousness, Keeper explained. Mining them would destroy these beings. Not mining them would force your people to abandon this settlement and potentially face hardship. You have 1 hour to decide. The team debated intensely. June argued for preserving the crystal beings, while others noted the needs of their own people. Miho studied the data carefully. Wait, he said after 30 minutes. These readings suggest the crystals reproduce by seeding smaller formations outside the valley. What if we harvest only the mature crystals and help transplant their seedlings to new locations? The team developed a plan for sustainable harvesting that would allow both civilizations to thrive. When they presented it to Keeper, the simulation froze. An acceptable solution, Keeper announced. The Seeders failed this trial. They chose immediate benefit over coexistence, a decision they later regretted. You have passed the first trial. As the holographic environment faded, they found Ambassador Zorl and 2 other Tellurians had entered the chamber during the simulation. Fascinating technology, Zorl commented, his translator converting his clicks into words. Our scientists have analyzed the energy signatures during your experience. This ship possesses simulation capabilities beyond anything known to current galactic science. Captain Kim straightened her uniform. Ambassador, this ship has made it clear it will only interact with humans. Perhaps, Zorl replied smoothly. But the knowledge it contains could benefit all species. The Council believes humans are too young a species to be entrusted with such responsibility. Tensions escalated over the next 2 days as more diplomatic vessels arrived. The Meridians suggested a compromise where humans would operate the ship but share all discoveries. The Altarians, normally peaceful, positioned their defense fleet just beyond Saturn. Meanwhile, the human team continued with the trials. The second test placed them in command of a planet facing a natural disaster, with limited resources to save the population. The third challenged them to resolve a conflict between 2 intelligent species sharing a world. After the third trial, Miho found Yunji studying ancient cedar text that Keeper had begun to share. I found something troubling, she said quietly. According to these records, the Cedars faced a threat they called the Void. They created ships like this one as a last defense. Against what? Miho asked. It's unclear. But I think these trials aren't just testing if we're worthy of their knowledge. They're preparing us for something. That night, alarms blared throughout the ship. Sunhee's voice came over the communication system, everyone to the central chamber now. The Tellurians are attempting to override the ship's systems. When Miho arrived, he found Keeper's hologram flickering as external devices attached to the ship's hull tried to force access to its systems. The fourth trial was to come later, Keeper said, its voice distorting. But circumstances have accelerated the timeline. You must now defend the legacy. If you fail, all will be lost. How? Captain Kim demanded. We have no weapons, no defenses. The ship responds to you, Keeper replied. But you must prove you will use its power wisely. The fourth trial begins. The central chamber of the Starseeker pulsed with red warning lights as Keeper's hologram flickered between visibility and darkness. Captain Doyen Kim rushed to what appeared to be the main console, where Sunhee was already working frantically. The Tellurian ships are using some kind of energy field to bypass the ship's outer defenses, Sunhee explained, her fingers flying across the alien interface that had reconfigured itself to respond to human touch. They're trying to download the ship's database directly. Miho joined them at the console. Keeper, what's happening? The hologram stabilized momentarily. The fourth trial tests how inheritors respond to those who would take by force what must be earned through worthiness. The Starseeker has defensive capabilities, but they can only be activated by those who understand their proper use. The ship shuddered as another energy pulse hit its hull. We need options, Captain Kim said firmly. What defenses does this ship have? Keeper's hologram expanded, showing a 3-dimensional map of the Starseeker and the vessels surrounding it. The ship can generate an energy field that would disable all technology within Saturn's orbit. It could also produce a targeted beam that would destroy the attacking vessels. Yunji shook her head. If we disable all technology, the human ships would be affected too. People could die if life support systems fail. And destroying the Tellurian ships would start a galactic war, June added grimly. Miho studied the display carefully. Is there a third option? Something that protects without harming? Keeper's hologram turned to face him. The Seeders created defensive systems based on isolation rather than destruction. The Starseeker can generate a localized bubble of altered spacetime, removing itself from normal space temporarily. A pocket dimension? Sunhee asked, excitement breaking through her concern. Similar in concept, though the technology functions differently, Keeper replied. It would place the ship beyond reach without harming others. The team quickly agreed this was the best option. Keeper guided them through the activation sequence, but another violent shake interrupted the process. Warning, Keeper announced. Tellurian breaching pods have attached to the lower hull. They will physically enter the ship in approximately 3 minutes. Captain Kim contacted the human fleet, requesting immediate assistance, but the closest vessel was 15 minutes away. We need to complete the 4th trial now, Miho insisted. What exactly must we do? You must understand the true purpose of the Starseeker, Keeper said. Follow me. The hologram led them deeper into the ship, to a section they hadn't explored before. They entered a vast chamber that stretched farther than they could see. Countless crystalline containers lined the walls, each glowing with soft internal light. What is this place? Yoonji asked in awe. The true heart of the Starseeker, Keeper replied. What you see before you is the genetic repository of the Seeders and 5,000 other species from their time. This ship is not merely a vessel of knowledge, it is an ark. The humans stood in shocked silence as they grasped the implications. The Seeders faced extinction, Keeper continued. Not just cultural extinction, but biological. Before the end, they created ships like this one and sent them to the worlds they had seeded, hoping that someday, their descendants might restore what was lost. Miho approached one of the crystal containers, peering at the swirling patterns inside. These are DNA samples? More than samples. Complete genetic sequences, memories, personalities, everything needed to resurrect an individual. Another violent shake reminded them of their immediate danger. The Tellurians must have discovered what's here, Captain Kim said. With this technology, they could control evolution itself. Which is why it cannot fall into unprepared hands, Keeper agreed. Now you understand what you must protect. The 4th trial asks, how will you safeguard a legacy that is not fully yours? The team huddled together, speaking quickly as they formed a plan. When they returned to the central chamber, they found Keeper waiting. We've made our decision, Miho announced. We will activate the spacetime bubble to protect the ship temporarily. Then we will share the truth about the Starseeker with all species, not the technology itself, but the knowledge of what it contains and what it represents. The Seeders believed knowledge should be earned, not taken, Yoonji added. We'll honor that belief by establishing a process where all species can participate in the trials, proving their worthiness together rather than competing. Keeper's hologram seemed to grow brighter. An unexpected solution. The Seeders created the trials as tests for individual species. The concept of cooperative worthiness was not considered. Another alarm sounded. Tellurian breaching pods activating. Hull penetration imminent. Keeper's form shifted, growing more defined, more present. Your solution honors the spirit of the Seeders' intention while adapting to present circumstances. The 4th trial is passed. The ship hummed with new energy as interfaces throughout the chamber activated. Defensive systems online, Keeper announced. Preparing spacetime displacement. Just as the first Tellurian breaching pod cut through the lower hull, the Starseeker shimmered and vanished from normal space, leaving the attacking ships firing at empty void. In the pocket of altered reality, Keeper's hologram addressed the stunned humans. Now that you understand what the Starseeker truly is, you must prepare for the final trial and the truth about why the Seeders really created this ship. The Starseeker drifted in its bubble of altered spacetime, a peaceful island amid the chaos they had left behind. Inside the central chamber, the human crew gathered around Keeper's hologram, which now projected images of galaxies and star systems they didn't recognize. The final trial begins with truth, Keeper said. The Seeders did not merely face extinction from natural causes or war. They encountered something they called the Void, a force that consumed entire civilizations. The hologram showed dark clouds spreading across star systems, leaving emptiness in their wake. "What is it?" Miho asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The void is not alive in the way you understand life," Keeper explained. "It is a phenomenon that exists between dimensions, drawn to advanced technology and the energy signatures of sophisticated civilizations." Sunhee stepped closer to the display. "And it destroyed the Cedars?" "Yes. When they realized they could not defeat it, they created ships like the Starseeker. Their plan was twofold: preserve their legacy and find species who might approach technology differently, species who might one day develop defenses they could not." Captain Kim frowned. "And you believe humans are these species?" "Humans are one possibility. The Cedars seeded many worlds. But you have shown promise in the trials, particularly in how you balance technology with ethical considerations." "The final trial," Keeper explained, "was not a test but a choice. The Starseeker contained everything needed to restore the Cedar civilization, their knowledge, their culture, and the genetic material to recreate their physical forms. You must decide whether to awaken them," Keeper said. "But be warned, their return may attract the void once more." For hours, the team debated. Yoonji argued for restoration. The knowledge they could gain from direct interaction with the Cedars would be invaluable. June worried about the risk of drawing an ancient enemy to Earth. Sunhee questioned whether humanity was ready to meet their evolutionary architects. Miho spent this time in the genetic repository, studying the containers that held the essence of an entire civilization. He noticed patterns in how they were arranged, not randomly, but in family groups, communities, connected networks of individuals. When the team reassembled, Miho shared his observation. They didn't preserve themselves as separate individuals, but as communities. "I don't think they wanted to be restored all at once, or all to one place." "What are you suggesting?" Captain Kim asked. "A gradual reintroduction," Miho replied. "Not here, not now, but over time, in small groups, allowing them to integrate with our society rather than establishing themselves as separate or above us." Keeper's hologram seemed to shimmer with approval. "This solution honors both preservation and growth." The final trial is passed. With the trials complete, the Starseeker's full systems came online. Keeper showed them how to navigate the ship's vast database of knowledge, explaining that certain technologies would become available to humanity only as they developed the ethical frameworks to use them responsibly. "It is time to return," Keeper announced. "The other species must learn of your success and your decision." "They won't be happy," Captain Kim noted. "Especially the Tellurians." "That is part of your inheritance," Keeper replied. "Not just knowledge and technology, but responsibility for sharing it wisely." The Starseeker emerged from its bubble near Earth rather than Saturn. The sudden appearance of the massive ancient vessel in Earth orbit created a planet-wide sensation. News feeds across the globe showed the same images: the sleek black ship hanging above the blue planet, a bridge between humanity's past and future. In the following days, representatives from Earth met with the Galactic Council aboard the Starseeker. Captain Kim and her team presented their plan. The ship would remain under human stewardship, but a new institute would be formed with representatives from all species to study its knowledge together. The Cedars left this legacy not just for humans, but for all life, Miho told the gathered ambassadors. "We are simply the ones who can unlock it." Some species accepted this arrangement immediately. Others, like the Tellurians, remained suspicious but agreed to participate rather than be excluded. 1 month after the ship's activation, the first Cedar was restored to life. She was a scientist named Elia in human pronunciation, and her first words upon awakening were in a language that sounded strangely familiar yet completely alien. When she learned enough English to communicate, she explained that she had volunteered to be first to help bridge the gap between her people and the descendants they had hoped would someday find them. "We created you, in a sense," she told Miho as they stood in the observation deck, looking down at Earth. "But you have created yourselves in ways we never imagined. Now we must learn from each other." "And the void?" Miho asked. "Will it return?" Alaya's expression grew solemn. "Perhaps. But that is tomorrow's challenge." Today, we celebrate finding each other across millions of years because a ship we built responded to a human voice. As the Starseeker continued to orbit Earth, its presence changed everything. Humanity's place in the galaxy had transformed overnight, from newcomers to inheritors, from students to teachers, from seekers to finders of the greatest legacy the stars had ever known.